In addition to adequate notice under the Open Public Meetings Act, electronic notice of this remote public meeting is permitted under NJSA 10:493 was placed on the City of Newark website. Members of the public can make public comments by audio or by audio and video as permitted by the Zoom electronic communication platform. Now, while in the Zoom meeting, press on raise hand on the bottom left corner of the computer screen or mobile device. Raise hand allows participants to notify the host that he or she would like to speak without interrupting them. If you're calling in, press *9 on your telephone to raise your hand. The Board of Adjustment will be mindful of the number of items on the agenda and move as expeditiously as possible to complete the agenda. However, due to the amount of the development requiring board review and the complexity of project, it may not be possible to hear every item if the minute runs later than the meeting. In the event that the agenda is not complete by 11 tonight, the board will finish hearing the application they are in process of listening to, but no application will be called after that item is complete. Any applications that were not heard by the time will be rescheduled to the earliest available date, which will be announced on the record if possible. In addition to adequate notice, an electronic remote public meeting as permitted under NJS was placed on the City of Newark website. I want to let everyone know that's attending this meeting tonight. Please do not post comments in the chat room because it will not be recorded for future reference. Madam Secretary, you may call the roll.
Member Hall.
Present.
Member Hardesty.
Present.
Member Comesañas.
Present.
Member Jones. Member Jones.
Present.
Member Rivero.
Present.
Member Cobian.
Present.
Member Torres.
Present.
Chair Mumford.
Present. Are there any adjournments? Any adjournments? Postponements? We have none, Madam Secretary?
No. No 2 minutes.
None. You may call the first application.
The time is now 6:13 p.m. The first item on tonight's agenda is ZBA-24-01, located at 609-625 Broad Street in the Military Parks Commons Historic District, Block 18, Lot 39.01, Qualifier C003 in the Central Ward. The applicant is 609 Broad Street, LLC. In the Living Downtown Redevelopment Plan area, the applicant proposes the interior fit-out of ground floor space to be utilized as RadNet for medical use. Applicant is seeking a D1 use variance to permit medical facility and offices fronting on Broad Street. Site plan approval is not required. This application was previously adjourned on March 28, 2024.
Thank you. Finding of facts. The Board of Adjustment made the following findings of facts with respect to 609-633 Broad Street, which is located in Newark's downtown neighborhood. The subject site occupies a portion of the block bordered by Broad Street to the east, New Street to the south, and Halsey Street to the west. To the south of the site is the Prudential Office Tower. To the north are a vacant 14-story structure beyond which three vacant 2-3-story commercial buildings. To the west are retail and offices along Halsey Street. And to the east is the Trinity and St. Philip's Episcopal Cathedral and Military Park. The total site area is approximately 104,155 square feet. Counselor, is your team here?
They're in the attendee. If you can move over, and good afternoon or good evening, everyone. If you can bring over Alex Merlucci, Peter Solovsky, John McDonough should be here as well. Don't see him there yet, though.
If you're part of the council's team, please raise your hand so the secretary can bring you a part of the panel.
Sylvia Islovsky, Skip, his answer is great. Thank you. And good evening, everyone. My name is Marcia Moore from the law firm of Post Pollock on behalf of 609 Broad Street LLC. As Madam Secretary has indicated, this is a property project that's located at 609, 625 in the historic Haynes building. Tonight, we're here for interior fit out of approximately 10,400 square feet for use as a medical use. As you may be aware, over 10 years ago, the Central Planning Board approved the renovation of the historic Haynes building for a mixed-use project, which includes retail, residential use, and commercial. We're not seeking any modifications to that site plan or the exterior of the building. We have received a certificate of effect from the Landmarks Commission because we're not proposing any exterior modifications. As indicated, this is a proposed medical use that's in the Living Downtown Redevelopment Plan. We're seeking a D1 variance because the Living Downtown Redevelopment Plan does not specifically permit a medical use, but it does not specifically prohibit the medical use. Within that redevelopment plan, any offices that front on Broad Street is not permitted. So we are seeking, as I mentioned, a D1 use variance. We're not seeking any site plan. And because it's an adaptive reuse, as noted in Mr. Hazel's report, we are not required to provide any parking, although parking is part of this historic building. I do have a number of witnesses tonight. I have our architect, Alex Malucci, will discuss the interior modifications, the interior fit out of this project, followed by Peter Stolovsky, who will give you an overview of the operations. This medical facility will be operated here by RadNet in conjunction with Robert Wood Barnabas Health and RadNet for a state-of-the-art medical facility. Some of the service that you'll hear tonight that we'll propose are MRI, CT, mammograms, and ultrasound imaging services. And we indicate that this will be a state-of-the-art facility that's new to Newark. I also, just a couple of housekeeping, in addition to my witnesses, Mr.
Before you go forward, Counselor.
Okay.
Before you go forward, are there any objectors to this application? Please raise your hand and we will bring you into the panel. If you raise your hand, you have to accept the invite before you can come into the panel. Once again, are there any objectors? Please raise your hand.
There's one raised hand, person by screen name iPhone Zoo.
iPhone Zoo, are you objected to this application? Are they in?
That's me, and I'm not objecting. It was a raised hand to say that I was participating, so that is not an objection.
Okay, thank you. Are there any supporters for the application? If you are in support of this application, 609-625 Broad Street, please raise your hand and accept the invitation to come into the panel so you can hear the professional's testimony. Please raise your hand. I see a Brock Diamond, Ms. Mahia. Madam Secretary.
Mhm.
Brock Diamond. Brock Diamond, are you a supporter or objector of this application? Ma'am, sir? They still here, Madam Secretary?
Let's mute themselves.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes. How are you, sir? Are you an objector or supporter of this application?
Excuse me, sir?
You had your hand raised for the Broad Street application. I'm asking you, are you in favor of this application or are you against the application? Or are you just here to hear the application?
I was, at first I was a little apprehensive because I wasn't necessarily sure if there was going to be housing and like who was going to be in housing. But if it's just going to be this hospital setting, I think we always need more access to resources for healthcare. So, I know that there's another healthcare facility, I believe, on the same block. So I hope that they aren't going to be doing the same thing. But yeah, I'm all in support of more healthcare.
Great, Ms. Diamond. Sit back, listen to the testimony. If you have any questions, we will allow you to ask questions to the professionals pertaining to the testimony when you raise your hand.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Counselor, you may continue.
Thank you, Chair. What I indicated that in addition to having our architect and our operator, we will have our planner, John McDonough, will be discussing the justification for the D1 use variance. I'm also in receipt of the planner's report dated March 4th, 2024. Mr. Hazel has asked us to elicit certain testimony, which we'll certainly do as far as the operations, including the pickup and drop off the proposed medical facility. As indicated, this is in the historic Haynes building. We are not proposing any additional residential units. This is just an interior fit out of the ground floor. So at this time, I'd like to call my architect, Alexander Malucci, as my first witness.
Thank you, Marcia. Good evening, everyone.
Raise your right hand. Go ahead, Ms. Hall.
Sworn in, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to provide will be the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name, spell your last name, and state your affiliation for the record.
Sure. Alexander Merlucci, Merlucci. I'm a partner with the firm of Ingles Architecture and Engineering. I'm a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey. My license is current. I received my bachelor in architecture from the New Jersey School of Architecture at NJIT. And I have appeared before this.
Thank you. We're going to qualify him.
Thank you. And your license is still current, correct?
Yes. Yes.
We're going to set him as a licensed architect.
So, you've indicated in my introduction that this project, interior fit outs, including the historic Haynes building. If you can share your screen and give us an overview of proposed interior fit out for this medical use.
Sure. I'll run through this and I'll try to be brief. I was the architect for the Haynes building adaptive reuse a number of years ago, and this is a continuation of the intent of the adaptive reuse. So the subject tenant space is a medical office / medical imaging facility. It would be located in the ground floor on Broad Street in the Haynes building. It is the space, if I just flip to the ground floor plan here, it is the space on the northernmost end of the building that was previously occupied by Petco. If you, just to orient everybody, Broad Street is on the right side of the page here, New Street is on the bottom, and the skylight atrium is in the center. RadNet would have direct access from the Broad Street side of the building, as well as rear access to the loading dock and egress out the back. The tenant would also have access to the included basement level parking. So if I just go down to the basement level, the existing basement level garage includes 218 parking spaces that serve a variety of uses within the building. We are not asking for a parking variance as part of this application. The consumers that use the tenant space would have the ability to use the garage and can access the tenant space via a accessible vestibule and elevators up to the skylit atrium, and then could make their way over to the entry to the space. They would also have access to the on-street parking, which is short-term parking both on New Street and on Broad Street that could be used for loading and access to the space. If I continue to the layout for the space on the ground floor plan, and this is in the package that was submitted, this is the layout for the subject tenant space. Their main lobby and entry will be located off of Broad Street, so you can see the floor.
So a little bit, I don't know, I can't see it. So.
Sorry, Marcia. How about now?
A little bit more.
Okay.
Okay.
The Broad Street again is on your right here. Their main access is off of Broad Street via an accessible entry from the sidewalk. Upon entry, there are two reception areas, one with a large waiting area and reception. This is for patients coming in for ultrasounds, mammography, or x-rays. And there's a separate waiting room on the northern side of the space with a smaller waiting room for MRIs and CT scans. The remainder of the space includes various office spaces for doctors for viewing of x-rays, as well as dressing rooms, including full accessible accommodations and restrooms. This is the first front half of the space on Broad Street. If I go to the next page, you'll be able to see the back half. Again, additional ultrasound rooms, staff lounge, IT, x-ray reading rooms, x-ray rooms, and exam rooms. A few important things to note if I go back to the overall ground floor. So again, you'll see the RadNet space located here in white and highlighted. As far as trash and loading, they will have direct access to the building enclosed trash and loading dock in the back. That's back here with access directly off of Halsey Street. Any of their medical waste will be removed by private hauler and stored in one of the storage rooms within the tenant space. Any of the imaging rooms will be separated using lead-lined walls in accordance with the FGI guidelines and are subject to review and approval by the Department of Health and the New Jersey DCA as part of their licensing and approval process. I think that is the general overview of the space. One other thing I wanted to mention, just as far as the exterior of the building. So if I pull up drawing A200, you'll be able to see the Broad Street elevation of the Haynes building. So you'll note, anybody that's familiar with the Haynes building knows New Street is on the left. The entry to Whole Foods is on the left-hand corner. The RadNet space are these two spaces on the right-hand side that I'm highlighting. Any of the signage for their tenant space will comply with the approved signage package for the building. Anybody that's been by the building will see that all the signage is consistent. It's white backlit lettering, both on the storefront and then on the blade signs that are located on the building. That package was previously approved by the Planning Board and the Landmarks Commission. Any of the RadNet signage will comply with the requirements of that signage, including height, illumination, and installation methodology. I think that concludes my testimony, Marcia, unless there was anything that
One
I may have
question.
missed.
So you indicate that this does include the medical use as well as the offices. If you can show where that office space is proposed in connection with the medical use, is that correct? This is not an office space that will be rented out to a third party?
That is absolutely correct. There are various offices included within the medical use. So just on this plan, you can see an office manager space, and then at the back of the space, you can see various other, the staff lounge and other offices for doctors. There's the IT room, x-ray reading room, and other type of office spaces that are kind of ancillary to the overall imaging and medical use.
And as you were the architect of record for this building when it was approved in 2024, as far as any protection of separation from the residences to this proposed medical facility, is that in line? Will there be any noise volumes? Like what's in place as far as separation of the residential component versus the medical use?
Absolutely. There is no change to the fire rated separation between the ground floor tenant space and the tenant space above. If I go back to the elevation, just to help illustrate this, here's the Broad Street elevation. You actually have office space directly above the RadNet space. There isn't residential directly above it. The residential is on floors 3 and 4. So again, the fire rated separation is maintained, and there is a spray applied, fireproofing, as well as a concrete slab, which contributes to the sound attenuation between the spaces and the required fire rating between the spaces.
And finally, as you mentioned, the loading areas, the access on New Street, those are all part of our overall approval that we receive in 2024. Is that correct?
Two things. Yes, there is an enclosed loading dock in the back here, access off of Halsey, which is for trash removal, loading and unloading of goods and materials, which have direct access into the back of the RadNet space. That's part of the original approval. We also had approval for short-term loading spaces on Broad Street in the front here and on New Street on the side.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board for the architect? Any questions from the board from the architect?
Yeah.
Commissioner Thomason, yes.
Question. Is City MD, it's 3 questions. City MD is still going to remain, if you know? Do you know if they're still going to remain?
Yes.
Okay.
The intent is for City MD to remain, and just to comment on that a little bit, because we have heard that concern a little bit, these are kind of complementary uses. City MD is kind of an urgent care that you would go to for immediate medical needs. They do have some imaging some imaging capabilities, but not to the extent that RadNet does. There is perhaps some synergies between the two, where MRIs and CT scans that City MD is unable to perform could be kind of directed next door to RadNet. But the two spaces will coexist next to each other and kind of serve a different consumer base.
Okay, so we're not doing the same thing right next to each other. We're not opening, two Foot Lockers right next to each other.
No.
And then the other question is there any architecture that's associated or any work associated with the imaging, protection from X-rays, things of that nature, that we should be concerned about, or we should know that it's going to be installed to make sure no one has to be concerned?
Good question. So a couple things from a life safety and protection perspective. The fire and sprinkler system will be modified to accommodate the new layout for this new tenant space. So as I mentioned, Petco was in this space previously. The space will be modified to accommodate the layout that's required for RadNet. The sprinkler system will be modified as part of that. Any of the imaging facilities, like X-ray, for example, will have lead-lined walls and ceilings in order to protect any of the X-ray from emanating out into the adjacent uses, and that's a typical requirement when creating an X-ray type space. So that will be that construction technique will be reviewed by the New Jersey Department of Health, and is a prerequisite as part of the licensing for the tenant space.
Thank you. That answers all my questions.
No problem. Thank you.
Any other commissioners have any further questions? Any questions from our professionals?
Commissioner Torres has her hand raised, Chair.
I'm looking now. Commissioner Torres.
Yes, my question is that the parking lot, is that gonna be shared with the tenants and the people that are coming in for, the patients who are coming in? The parking lot's gonna be shared?
Yes, the parking lot it's a mixed use building, and the parking lot is intended for shared use for all the uses. That includes the residents, Whole Foods, and the other residential uses within the space. Our total parking demand for the whole project, not just RadNet, but for the whole project, is 166 spaces based upon the zoning requirements. We've provided 183 standard spaces, or 213 total spaces, including the tandem spaces. This tenant, per the zoning requirement, only generates a need for six parking spaces. I know that's kind of a long-winded answer, but to answer your question directly, yes, the parking lot will be shared for all the uses within the building, and there's adequate parking for RadNet.
Okay. The tenants, do they pay for their parking spaces?
The tenants, the parking spaces are I think they're included as part of their tenancy.
Thank you.
Any further questions from commissioners or our city professionals? Any questions from the public? Any questions from the public?
Chair, we have Ms. Zara Kareem from Water and Sewer.
Okay. Well, you may ask your question.
Hi, good evening. This is Zara, supervising engineer from Water and Sewer Department, City of Newark.
Miss Alwaters, could you swear her in?
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give will be the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name, spell your last name, and your affiliation.
My name is Zara Karim, Karim, supervising engineers, Water and Sewer Department.
Proceed.
So my question is, are there going to be any changes in water demand due to this interior fit or change of use, whether domestic or fire demand? Are there any increase in demand, or for any sprinkler system change, so any increase in the fire demand that we need to know?
There will be a modification to the sprinkler system, which will require moving heads and potentially adding some heads based upon the enclosed spaces. As from a demand perspective, however, I don't believe there will be any change to the demand. Petco had bathrooms as well as a pet grooming facility, which was pretty intensive from a water flow perspective. This tenant really only has restrooms and some hand washing facilities, which are really low intensity from a water usage perspective. There's no showering or any other type of intensive water demand within the tenant space.
Okay, so I just want to make sure there is no, need for, the increase in the service size or anything.
No, there's no expected increase in the service size.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Ms. Kareem. I see we have Brock Diamond. Is that an old hand or do you have a question for the architect, Mr. Diamond?
I do have a new question, sir. Thank you.
May I ask you a question?
This space, like how many, I guess like how many clients should they expect to receive on a daily? Because I'm just trying to figure out like how does the not necessarily the parking work, because there is a little couple parking spots in the front. I'm just thinking about there's also bus traffic. I would imagine if somebody's going to be utilizing that facility, they may be, in those vans and stuff like that. So,
Mr.
Like-
Diamond, I don't know if that's a question for the architect. Counselor, Mr. Diamond, I don't know if that's a question for the architect or the operations manager or counselor. Can you elaborate on it?
So that would be a question answered by our operator. My next witness will be discussing the number of.
I do.
Hold your question, Mr. Diamond.
Thank you.
Hold your question. Any other questions from the public? Great. Seeing none, you may call your next professional, counselor.
I'd like to call Mr. Peter Solowski.
Hi. Can
Hi,
you hear me?
please
Because I can't see. You can hear me?
We can hear you, sir.
Okay, great.
Please raise your right hand to be sworn in.
Yeah.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to provide will be the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? I do.
Yes. Did you
Okay,
hear
sorry.
the oath?
Yes, I can hear everything you're saying.
Okay, please state your name, spell your last name, and state your affiliation for the record.
Sure. My name is Peter Solowski. It's S like Sam, U-L-O-V like Victor, S-K-I. I'm the Vice President of New Jersey Imaging Network, located at 439 Chestnut Street, Union, New Jersey. I represent the proposed operator of 609-625 Broad Street.
Peter, is your camera working?
It was working, but when I came on here, it's not now.
Chair, will you allow me to question my witness?
Can I?
We're going to recall him and call him. We're going to recall this witness because he's the operator. So we would like him to be on video.
Yeah.
So let's.
Is there
recall
maybe
him.
the way I came in that it came this way, or?
Counselor?
I don't know. Do you have another, are you on a desktop or another means of?
On my laptop. I wonder if I shut the camera.
Counselor.
Yes.
Counselor Moore, this is what we're going to do. We're going to hold off. We're going to recall him, call your next witness, and we'll come back. So that we can move this. So that we can move.
My planner, you allow me, I think I may need to have some qualification by John McDonough as far as the planning testimony, the operator to qualify Mr. McDonough. My next.
Yeah, we can move to the plan and come back to the operations of the.
John, are you there?
Mr. McDonough, where are you?
Here he is.
There he is. Swear him in.
Please raise your right hand to be sworn in. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to provide will be the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Yes?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name, spell your last name and your affiliation for the record.
Sure. Hi there, everyone. My name is John McDonough. That's spelled M-C, capital D-O-N-O-U-G-H, and I am the project planner.
So Mr. McDonough is well known to this board. Mr. McDonough.
We would accept Mr. McDonough as the planner because he's here every week.
And Mr. McDonough, for record, your license current today, as of today, right? Correct? It's still current.
current and in good standing, yes.
You've heard some preliminary testimony that we are seeking a medical use facility, and within my opening, I mentioned that we are seeking a D1 use variance, that the Living Downtown Redevelopment Plan does not specifically prohibit the use, but it does not specifically permit it. Along those lines, we have Mr. Malucci testify that proposing some offices along the Broad Street frontage. Can you walk us through the planning requirements and the justification for that D1 use variance?
Sure thing. Again, I think Alex established a good predicate here from a spatial standpoint. We're focused on how this will integrate with the space that's before you, approximately 10,000 square feet. And obviously, the main concern, the main relief that is here before the board, the applicant is asking to move on an office use in a zone that is primarily targeted at having, I'll say, an active street frontage of retail shops. I think if I show you a picture of the site as it exists today, it'll be clear that this occupancy and this conversion of space will not alter the character of Broad Street. And Marcia, I don't know if we need to mark this as A1.
A1, yes, thank you. And it just shows.
This is this picture that was actually at the end of March on one of those dreary days, but the beauty of the building stands out. And none of that is going to change the beautiful transformation of this historic building right in the center of the city. The anchor will remain a retail use, and that's the end cap of Whole Foods, the grocer use. And then, of course, we're looking at the opposite end cap adjacent to the high-rise building. Again, not substantially altering the character of the streetscape by pulling in a non-retail use along the corridor. You heard through Alex's testimony, and I would agree that this is an excellent complement to the medical use that has already been found to be appropriate there. And with that, I would offer that the only relief the applicant is asking the board to move on is a D1 use variance to allow a non-retail use along the Broad Street frontage. And again, a use that's not expressly permitted in the Living Downtown Redevelopment area. Again, this will remain a single tax lot that's multi-tenanted, with residential uses on the top, who will be protected, as you heard, through those lead protected ceiling panels and roofs and walls, so that there will be no impact on those residential uses, those again, those lead lined walls. Alex has addressed medical waste. He has addressed parking and the fact that no parking relief is sought here whatsoever. On balancing, this is squarely going to land on the positive criteria, where the benefits of the application as a whole would promote the public welfare. That's purpose A under the land use law. Again, this is a health service use that is going to be set right in the center of the city, where it's easily accessible to the greatest population in a walkable environment. It is also going to provide jobs, promote economic development, take underutilized commercial space, prime commercial space, and put it back into functional use. That goes towards the planning goal for efficient land use and variety of land uses in appropriate locations without altering the beauty of the building that you see before you. So that also goes towards purpose I, the promotion of a desirable visual environment. This site has historic approval. This site, again, is going to be an adaptive reuse of an established and renovated building. We think it's a very good fit for this location. Any impacts would be minimal, again, if any, and the degree of departure from the zone plan is not substantial here, given the relatively small amount of space and the huge public benefit that this imaging center will provide with MRIs, CT scans, X-rays, exams, mammograms, and the like, as you heard through Alex's testimony. So with that, we would offer that the applicant does meet its statutory burden for this location and this conversion at this particular spot along Broad Street. And with that, I would rest and open up any redirect or cross.
If you just mention a little bit more, John, on the D1, maybe we should be enhanced standard, because this is a D1 use as for being particular suited. You may have mentioned it, but in just a little bit testimony on that.
Sure. In terms of the positive criteria, the board needs to find that the project promotes the general welfare because the site is particularly suited for the use. Given the fact that this is an end cap, we think contextually, this will be a nice complement to the use that is immediately adjacent to it, which is a medical use. Also, contextually, the fact that it is right here in the center of the city, easily accessible to people where they can come in, come out, without having to go upstairs or elevators or the like, we think is also why the site is well suited to accommodate the use that's before you. It's a relatively small space, so again, in terms of site context and site condition, through Alex's testimony and the exhibits, you saw that it can fit within the space that's allocated here without increasing the intensity over what could be or what was previously here in the form of that Petco use.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions, counsel, for your witness?
No further questions of Mr. McDonough. Thank you.
Any questions from the board for the planner? All right, any questions from the city professionals for the planner? Any questions from any of the supporters or objectors for the planner's testimony only? Mr. McDonough, this might be a record.
I'll take it, Mr. Chairman. I will take it.
You may call your next witness.
I would like to call Mr. Peter Solowski, but I believe we were still at the same issue. I don't believe.
We're gonna go forward with him, even though we can't get
Peter, can you hear me?
I can hear and see everyone, and for some reason, my camera looks like it's on, but it's not working.
Quite
We're
familiar.
gonna go forward.
Okay.
So we did.
You're still under oath, right?
Yes.
So,
State your name.
Mr. Peter, can you repeat your name again, please?
Sure. It's Peter Solowski. I'm the Vice President of New Jersey Imaging Network.
Thank you. You may continue, Council.
And Mr. Solowski, what's the relationship between New Jersey Imaging Network and RadNet?
Yeah, so New Jersey Imaging Network was created in 2012 by RWJBH and a public company called RadNet. RadNet is the managing partner of which I work for. And we operate and manage 35 imaging centers in 10 counties here in New Jersey.
And you indicated that you are currently the Vice President of Operations. Can you describe what those responsibilities entail?
Yeah, so I'm in charge of the operations of all 35 centers. I work with our directors and imaging center managers in the day-to-day operations of our imaging centers. I also handle all of our New Jersey ambulatory care licensing regs that we are required to follow, plus obviously staffing, salaries, benefits, anything that is entailed into the day-to-day operations of our centers.
And how long have you served in that capacity?
Yeah, so I've been with RadNet for 15 years. I've been in radiology for over 40 years.
And you're familiar with the proposed operation at the 609, 625?
Yes, very excited about the opportunity. I actually was born in Newark, so it's sort of like coming home, and I think this would be a fantastic location for us.
So you've mentioned that NGIN was founded on or about 2012, is that correct?
That is correct.
And how many locations do you have in New Jersey?
35 in 10 counties.
And how many in Essex County?
We have 6 in Essex County.
And is there a specific criteria for when you decide to, for location purposes, like does that criteria entail?
Yeah, so we work with our partner, Robert Wood Johnson Barnabas Health. They, as you know, are at Beth Israel, and they've always felt very strongly that we should be in Newark. It's taken us several years to find a location we thought was suitable. We like ground floor, 10-foot ceilings, walkability. So we also look at obviously population, Newark being the largest city in New Jersey, and also the availability of our referring physicians. So NGIN overall, New Jersey Imaging Network, with the 6 other centers in Essex County, draws from an enormous group of physicians from the city of Newark.
Are you a primary care physician? Is this facility considered a primary care physician facility?
No, we are purely an outpatient radiology center.
So you will not propose and there will not be any surgeries done on site?
None. No, just radiology services.
I've mentioned this state-of-the-art as far as the imaging center. Can you just give us a brief overview of what kind of services you're proposing to provide at this premier full-service patient center?
Yeah, absolutely. We're very excited. We believe in technology. We work with multiple AI companies. RadNet is a public company as well, nationwide. And we will be the first outpatient imaging center in Newark that's going to be offering a 3T high field MRI, also advanced CAT scan, which will be offering coronary CTAs as well. We have an advanced program in mammography with AI technology as well. And of course, ultrasound, X-ray, and bone density will go hand in hand. So we'll be offering 6 modalities at this facility.
Can you give us a little bit more background, because I've mentioned the state of the art. Exactly.
Yeah, sure.
It's 3TY. You said it's the first to ever come to Newark.
Yeah, so obviously there are 3T magnets at the hospitals, but there are no outpatients in Newark presently. A 3T magnet is really advanced for neuro, musculoskeletal, breast, prostate. These are all high-end modality services with an MRI. And as far as the CAT scan goes, we're going to be looking at doing coronary. America obviously has a huge heart health issue. And so we look forward to providing this in an outpatient setting, coronary CTAs as well.
One of the questions I believe Mr. Brock Diamond indicated, and we've discussed as part of this preparation, is what is your projected number of patients per day? What would you say?
Yes. So anytime we open a new facility, obviously it's a smaller number. We think around 60 to 90 patients. Most of our patients are anywhere from 10 minutes to 40 minutes, depending on the study they're having. Ultimately, when the center is full blown, if you will, it might take us a year or so. We're talking about between 130 and 180 patients we assume.
And you said typically the length is 10 to 40 minutes?
Yeah, so an X-ray could only take 10 minutes, but MRI with and without contrast might take 40 minutes. Generally, MRIs are taking about 20 minutes today. CAT scans, 15 minutes. Mammography is 15 minutes. So a lot of our patients are in and out fairly quickly.
You've mentioned in your introduction that NGIN was formed with a partnership with Robert Wood Johnson.
Yep.
How do you typically obtain your client pool? Or is this based on a referral system? How do you typically get your patients?
Yeah, they're all referral system. We have a full sales team that's out in the market as well. We have board certified radiology groups. We actually have 4 of them here in New Jersey that we work with. And so a lot of, I mentioned before, the Newark physicians. In 2023, we received referrals from 685 physicians located in Newark at our other NGI locations. So we know the need is tremendous. They like our service. They like our board certified specialist radiologists. So it's sort of a no-brainer in a sense that we're going to be able to handle these physicians in Newark, keeping their patients in the city of Newark.
And along those lines, is it also your intent to partner with any hospitals in Newark?
So we are already, obviously, as a partner with Robert Wood Johnson, they are at Beth Israel in Newark already. So that's why the synergy works well. Again, wherever we pick a location, Robert Wood Johnson is our partner. So they have a lot of say in how we develop our imaging centers.
So one of the questions earlier we've mentioned, Mr. Malushi mentioned that the City MD urgent facility that this board approved in 2017 will remain at the property. And Commissioner Comisan has asked the question, what's the distinction between this medical facility, imaging center, as opposed to what is currently offered by City MD?
Well, for City MD, obviously it's urgent care. They have physicians on site that handle patients that need emergent care. We work with City MD throughout. They refer to us. Obviously, patients see that they're near us in some locations, and they use them as well. We use them for our employee health. We have a wonderful relationship in New York City with them as well. So we go hand in hand with them, but we do not have any kind of medical physician other than a radiologist on site. So yes, they refer their own X-ray or some ultrasounds, but their other work, when a patient comes in that needs a CAT scan or an MRI, they do refer to us as well.
And they don't have that state-of-the-art system that you just mentioned, is that correct?
No, they don't provide that. In some of their facilities, they'll have x-ray, some will have x-ray and ultrasound.
As far as terms of employees, what's the anticipated number of employees if this project was approved?
Yes, so initially we think around 6 to 10 employees will begin. And when we do hire, when we open a facility, we do a job fair. We try to get people from the local area. It's much better for commuting. It's better for bad weather. It just works better for us. So if this was approved, we would have a job fair in the city of Newark. We also work with, I work with Essex County College now. I'm actually presenting on May 22nd there. We work with them for their students. We'd love to be a clinical affiliate, and they've always told us that we get in Newark, we'll become one. So we like the synergy that way. But when the center is as, full, if you will, we expect between 16 and 20 employees.
And what would be your proposed hours of operation?
So generally, when we first open, we're 8 to 4:30, Monday through Friday, and Saturdays generally 8 to 12. We try to open 1 or 2 nights a week when we first start, up till 8 p.m. And then we see how the volume goes. But with studies going much quicker today with the advanced technology, you're not finding centers that have to be open till 8 o'clock Monday through Friday anymore, because you're doing work much quicker. So we try to do people that are working, we try to give them 1 to 2 nights a week and on Saturdays, so they don't have to take off from work to come to work, have studies done with us.
Mr. Malucci, in his testimony, pointed out the certain loaded areas, New Street, as well as access to the garage. Describe your procedure for pickup and drop off of patients.
Right, so we don't have vans or anything like that. Truly an outpatient facility. If a patient needs transportation, we'll arrange medical Uber for that. So it's a drop off. Once they're done with their study, we call a medical Uber, arrange back, and they come pick them up. Obviously, if patients are coming by taxi, by public transit, by Uber, driving, they all come different ways. And one of the reasons why we like to get employees that are close by too is a lot of them will either walk, take public transit to work. Many of the young people that have worked with us don't drive. We're in many cities. We're in Bayonne, Union City, Jersey City, Hoboken, and we find a lot of that for new employees as well.
And let's talk about I think just expand a little bit, medical Uber. When we say medical Uber, it's really a walkie-talkie system that you have. You're not using a van or special transportation. Is that correct?
That's correct. Medical Uber is, we go to medical Uber in the sense that if someone says to us, you know what, I don't have a ride, can you transport me? We have agreements with medical Uber corporate-wide, and so it's just easier for us for billing and everything. So medical Uber picks them up, drops them off, leaves, and then we rearrange when the patient is finished.
And then in the event that this medical Uber arrived at the facility, is there someone that may be potential to assist them in and out to the extent they may need your assistance?
Yeah, we do it all the time at all of our centers. We'll go out and help patients. We bring wheelchairs out to them if they need it. Generally, we're outpatient. We don't use a lot of stretcher work, but it's mostly wheelchair that we would have accessibility for patients. And by the way, we do have MRI safe wheelchair versus a regular wheelchair, because obviously you need to be concerned about that as well.
Is most of it, would you consider that most of your patients, if any, do they need a wheelchair, or they're just typically just come in their own vehicles or in the?
I mean, we do have some. I mean, I'm not going to say we don't, because we have patients that might have MS or something like that where they need it. A lot of them arrange their own transportation. Family members bring them. But like I said, if we need to, we arrange medical Uber.
You kind of touched on this earlier when you said in determining your location. Why Newark? Why downtown?
Well, first of all, we love the location. Like I said, our partner really feels strongly too about being in the largest city in the state. And the number one thing is, I just mentioned to you about the 685 Newark physicians that are sending their patients out of the city to come to our other facilities. So we know there's a need. Our Newark physicians have asked us, could you possibly come into Newark? It'd be a lot easier for our patients and our own care. And it also will help our other existing centers that are in Essex County with patient flow, because we are seeing so many patients from Newark.
In meeting you and discussing and learning about this proposed facility, you mentioned certain community impacts and in particular clinical challenges to Newark residents and also the African American community. Can you discuss that briefly? What do you think those 3 clinical challenges and whether or not this proposed facility will assist that?
Yeah, so we actually have an outreach program with RWJ. We also work with the SEED program. In fact, we are signing an agreement today with the city of Newark for their SEED program, which is their underserved, underinsured screenings. We also do already New Jersey SEED for Hudson, Middlesex, and Union counties. We also realize that because of certain health concerns, such as your heart disease, prostate, breast care, trying to get out to the environment, to the public about their breast care. We find that in the city, folks are going less for their breast care that they should be going. So we have an outreach program that we provide to any of our city sites. And we also, like I told you before, we have our enhanced breast cancer detection, which is AI. That's the latest that we'll be offering to our patients that will be coming to Newark. And we actually perform, just so you have an idea too, for the patients in the city of Newark, in 2023, we did over 31,000 procedures from patients from Newark in our other facilities.
And you mentioned said prostate cancer as well as cardiovascular.
Yes, so we have a new program called Advanced Prostate Screening. It's quick. Patients come in quickly for an MRI. It's with AI technology as well. Right now, it's at a $300 cost, but you come in quickly for a prostate screening. And interestingly enough, we started this program in New York City recently, and we only did it with employees. And we were able to find 5 prostate cancers unknown to the employees that they had. So it's an exciting venture. We're rolling it out. We recently rolled it out in northern Essex County in the Montclair area. And we will be rolling it out to the rest of the state in the coming weeks.
You've briefly mentioned your partnership or working closely with Essex County College.
Yeah.
Any internship opportunities or job opportunities as part of this facility would be open?
Yeah, so when we go, I attend all of the colleges that have X-ray programs. I literally was just at Middlesex College last week. I'll be at, like I said, Essex County on the 22nd. We and they would like us very much to be a clinical affiliate of theirs. So their students can come right over since we'll be located so closely to them. We have arrangements with many of the colleges, Hudson County College, Middlesex College, Hackensack Meridian, where those students come into our facilities and our clinical affiliates.
So I'm going to just move a little bit along as far as Mr. Malucci talked about waste being stored and disposed of in those storage areas. How often do you typically have that removed? How is that typically handled?
Yeah, so our medical waste, which is syringes and needles, are kept in a locked storage. It's picked up every 2 weeks by a company called Syntox, which is a approved medical waste disposal company. They come in, they take it, and we order the red boxes and things like that. They're all stored there. It's all in locked cabinets, and like I said, every 2 weeks they remove it from our facilities.
And I'm aware that this board, obviously everyone here is aware, paramount is the safety of the residents, safety for your staff. What, if any, training would be in place to ensure that there are certain safety measures for your patients and your staff?
Yeah, so all of our staff go through training. We're RadNet, a public company. We have a full compliance department. All of our centers are inspected yearly so that we are in compliant. All of our employees get online training. We also, obviously with MRI, there are 4 zones in a facility of safety. So everyone has to be trained in those zones as well as you bring patients back and back until you get actually into the MR room. So obviously we have to be very conscious of that. Obviously, we're also will be ambulatory care licensed in New Jersey to operate. And so you have to follow the state guidelines as well.
I have no further questions. Thank you, Mr. Slawski.
Sure.
Are there any questions from the board? Any questions from the city professionals? Any questions from the public? Mr. Brown, did you get your question answered? I have a question. Mrs. Solowski, other than working with the colleges, do you do any work with high schools that have allied health programs?
You know, it's interesting you say that. This is a program that we're going to start developing. RadNet, being a national company, has a big presence in other areas like New York, Maryland, and they have started now going to the high schools. And it's something that we haven't done, but we are actually investigating that now to try to get the kids to understand, wow, you could go to these programs 20 months and have an incredible career. The salaries have exploded in radiology today, and it would be an incredible opportunity for them. So it is something we're looking at. Right now, I go to all of the colleges that have X-ray programs, but we're actually starting to look at, there's the, in Atlantic City every year, the school education conferences. And we're looking at that opportunity to meet them so we could have this opportunity to go into the high schools. Would love to go into high school. That's how I became in this career. I actually started doing MRI back in 1984 when it first started in New Jersey. And it's basically, I learned from a nursing perspective, and then understood, wow, this is something I wanted to do. And so when I go to see all these kids in colleges, I always say this is an incredible career. It's exploding with technology. So we would not be adverse to go to any of the high schools.
Thank you, Mrs. Law, because we have several public high schools that have allied health programs, and we hope
that would be incredible.
If your application is approved, you could be a great partner for those public high schools that have allied health programs here in the city of Newark. Are there any other questions from the board members, city professionals, supporters, or objectors? Counselor, seeing none or hearing none, would you like to sum up?
I'll be very brief. I think Mr. Pazo put in his report that as the downtown area grows, the need for these services for Newark residents is necessary. We've indicated providing job opportunities, the partnership with Robert Wood and the doctors in this area, potential partnership with the high schools. This is a center that would provide, that meet the benefits and the goals of the Living Redevelopment Plan. And I believe we have met both the positive and the negative criteria, and I would ask that the board grant the approvals.
Thank you. Would anyone from the public like to make a statement regarding this application? I see none. Madam Secretary, do you see anyone with a raised hand?
No.
The board will now go into discussion. Are there any comments from the board? Commissioner Hall.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. There is a need for this type of facility in the city of Newark. They showed us statistically that the doctors are looking to send out an astronomical number of people for these services, radiology, and there's no place in Newark. Not only that, this is a state-of-the-art place, not disturbing anything in the current, this downtown area. It would be an asset. Me, myself, and probably most people on this call have to travel outside of the city to get any specialized x-rays or whatever. And we'd love to have something like this in the city of Newark. This seems to be a good employer that wants to help young people and show people the career of radiology. This is a win for the city of Newark. Not only that, the population downtown is exploding, right? And everybody needs medical services. Why should you have to leave the city to have that? They also talked about how they take care of waste. I think it was a good, solid testimony. They talked about the apartments in the Haynes building and air protections to make sure that is safe for people living in that building. This is not a urgent care center at all. It's a state-of-the-art radiology. I think it's all been said. This is an easy one for me. It brings more into our city to make our city state-of-the-art and everything. So I'm going to be in favor of this application. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall. Any other comments from the board? Commissioner Riviero.
I'll make it brief for my, I agree with Commissioner Hall. It makes sense that this should be approved. Not only with the over 31,000, what was it? 31,000 people or people went from Newark, went to the facility outside Newark. That doesn't make sense to me. That's a lot of that shows the need of it. So I will be in favor of it.
Thank you, Commissioner Riviero. Any other comments from the board? All right, as we look at this application, and if the city is going to become the great city that it's becoming, and if we're going to move forward with the projects that we have throughout this city, and the closing of hospitals and the overcrowding of some of our hospitals, we don't have special services. But when you have Bears Eagle Stadium that's expecting 4,000 new residents, when you have Vermella, which is down the street, expecting another 600 residents, when you have the Haynes building itself, you also have the new tower that's going to be built on Central Ave and Broad Street. These people that's moving to this neighborhood need to have somewhere they can go. They're going to have an urgent care and an imaging center that they can go to without having to travel to Short Hills like me and Commissioner Hall, because that's where we end up going, to Short Hills or Millburn, outside of the city, to get these special imaging. So this is not an application that's going to give us a negative impact. It's something that's going to give a positive impact to the entire city and to the area. So I will be in favor. With that being said, can I get a motion to approve or deny this application?
Chair,
Commissioner Kobe,
can I get a motion to approve application ZBA-24-01?
can I get a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Kobe, a second by Commissioner Hardesty. Madam Secretary, call the roll.
Member Hall,
Yes.
Member Hardesty,
Yes.
Member Comesañas,
Yes.
Member Jones,
Yes.
Member Rivero,
Yes.
Member Cobian,
Yes.
Chair Mumford.
Yes. There is no site plan required. Congratulations, your application has been approved.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so very
Thank
much.
you very much. Appreciate
Everyone,
it. Have a good night.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Call the next application.
The time is now 7:14 p.m. The next item on tonight's agenda is ZBA-24-12, located in the James Street Commons Historic District at 79 Halsey Street, Block 65, Lot 26 in the Central Ward. The applicant is Lilac Dispensary LLC. In the Living Downtown Redevelopment Plan, the applicant proposes renovation of existing building to be used as a licensed retail cannabis dispensary. Exterior repair work as approved by the Landmarks and Historic Preservation Commission. The applicant is seeking a D3 variance for failing to meet conditional use standards. Site plan approval is not required.
Findings of fact, 79 Halsey Street. The Board of Adjustment made the following findings of fact with respect to 79 Halsey Street, which is located in Newark's downtown neighborhood. The subject site is located in the western side of Halsey Street. To the north is Rutgers University mixed-use structure. The total site area is approximately 4,423 square feet. The surrounding land uses consist of mixed-use structures and the Prudential Corporate Building. Counselor, is your team here?
They are in the attendee list. If we can, I see Mr. McDonough's in. We do need, Kirk Mitchell.
Mr. Mitchell, please raise your hand.
Yes, thank you.
Who else?
Mr. Ramez Maximus
Please raise your hand.
and Chusef. I don't see his name. If he can raise his hand, Chusef Rathor, if he's on. Oh, he's under SCS user, Madam Secretary. That is the entire, once they turn on their cameras, I can confirm, and I believe that's the entirety of the team, yes.
Before we go forward, are there any objectives to this application? Please raise your hand. Once you raise your hand, you receive an invite. In order to come into the panel, you will have to accept the invite. If there are any objectives to this application, please raise your hand at this time. Madam Secretary, I see none on my end. Do you see any?
No, there are no raised hands.
At this time, are there any supporters of this application? Please raise your hand. You will receive an invite to be accepted to the panel. Once you receive that, once you answer yes, you will come into the panel. Please raise your hand at this time. Madam Secretary, let the record show I see zero.
Yeah, zero raised hands.
Counselor, you may open up.
Thank you so much. Good evening, members of the board. Jennifer Carrillo Perez of Connell Foley on behalf of Lilac Dispensary LLC. They are the applicant before you this evening on the application related to 79 Halsey Street. As you indicated, the property is located within the Newark Living Downtown and the James Street Commons Historic District. We are before the board this evening on the D3 conditional use variance to permit a licensed retail cannabis dispensary at this property. Specifically, we're seeking this conditional use approval as the proposed facility does not meet the required conditional use requirements. This applicant has, subject to the approval from the New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission, they intend to serve adult use cannabis customers under a Class 5 cannabis retail license. That documentation was submitted along with the application when filed. The license from the State Cannabis Regulatory Commission, along with the extension, was submitted to this board. We also note for the record that the applicant has received the prerequisite approvals from the Newark Landmarks and Historic Preservation Commission with respect to the exterior repair work on the property, as well as the commercial interior fit out. So that was all presented in that documentation submitted to the board. As it relates to the D3 request, the applicant has submitted, and you'll hear testimony as it relates to the building improvements, along with an overview of the operations, specifically the odor management plan, which we comply, the trash storage will be in compliance, the illumination levels compliance, the signage shall be in compliance, and the neighborhood compatibility map is where you will hear the testimony and the rationale from our planner with respect to the justification of why we are requesting the relief this evening. Just for a point of clarification, we note that the city's planner's report notes that residential apartments are located on the second and the third floors and that they will remain. That information was extracted from an original set of plans. I want it noted for the record that there will be absolutely no residential use on this property. It is strictly to be utilized for the purpose of the cannabis retailer. So with that, we do have some witnesses this evening that are going to provide the testimony in support of the application, starting with Kirk Mitchell from AKT Designs LLC. He's our architect. We will then have Ramez Maximus, who is the business consultant, who will provide the testimony with respect to the operations and the license of the facility. John McDonough is our principal planner, and he'll be providing the testimony for the justification. And Chusef Rathor, who you see on the screen, is a principal with Lilac Dispensary. He is here in the event there are specific questions that arise from the board that the witnesses somehow could not answer. With that said, I think I can proceed. I submitted the appropriate affidavit of notice to your board secretary, providing this board the jurisdiction to proceed this evening with the application.
Council, are there any professional reports from the city that you are adamant against or that we need to be aware of?
Not at all. We received, this is not seeking site plan approval. We only need the variance relief. We received the report from Mr. Hazel and will, through testimony, provide the clarification that he has asked for, but we have no issues with the conditions that he put forward in the recommendations in his report.
You may call your first witness.
Great, thank you. Mr. Kirk Mitchell.
Mr. Mitchell, please raise your right hand to be sworn in. I can't see you. Can you see her? Can you see him?
He's waiting.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to provide will be the truth and nothing but the truth?
Oh, we
Can't hear you. Turn your volume up.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me? I can hear you guys. Okay,
Now-
I do.
Okay, please state your name, spell your last name and your affiliation for the record. Or did you not hear the oath?
You
I
heard.
did. I said I do.
Okay.
Okay. Kirk Mitchell, last name spelled Mitchell, and I'm the principal and founder of AKT Designs. I'm the architect of record on this application.
Mr. Mitchell, if you can provide the board the benefit of your education, the status of your license, and whether it's current in place.
Absolutely. I have my bachelor's of architecture from Howard University and my master's of science and architecture from Carnegie Mellon University. I've been practicing over 20 years, and my New Jersey license is in good standing and current.
And you've been accepted by this board as a professional architect, correct?
Yes, numerous times.
I'd like
We
to.
will accept Mr. Mitchell as an architect. You may proceed.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mitchell, you have prepared the plans that were submitted as part of this application. Is that correct?
Yes, I have.
And you have reviewed the reports from that we received from Mr. Hazel with respect to some questions and clarifications that were required, correct?
Yes, I have.
And as a result of that, did you make some minor modifications with respect to those plans that were submitted?
Yes, I did. And those are the ones I'll be presenting today.
Great. So I'd like to introduce the revised architectural plans as Exhibit A1. And we will submit that to the board secretary. And if you can, Mr. Mitchell, please walk the board through the architectural plans as revised.
Absolutely. Please let me know when you can see my screen.
We can see it. Thank you.
Okay. So good evening, board. Thank you for the opportunity to present this application. Tonight we'll be discussing 79 Halsey Street, change of use for a cannabis dispensary. Right now we are looking to convert this existing mixed use, a 3-story plus basement brick building, with the top 2 stories are vacant, and there used to be residential dwelling units, which are now vacant. And the bottom 2, first floor is a commercial space and the basement is storage space. And what we're looking to do tonight is just focus on the basement and first floor where the cannabis dispensary will be incorporated into. The existing facade, which I'll go into a little bit later more in detail, is historic and has already been approved by historic, and we're looking to only make changes in kind, and basically all the architectural elements will be existing to remain, just fixed up so it doesn't look like this picture in the left-hand corner screen. Our site is located on Halsey Street. Next to our site is the larger Newark Development 75-77 Halsey Street, and on the left there are 3 light townhouse structures similar to ours, with the closest corner being Linden Street. The lot size is 22 by 54, approximately 1,200 square foot. And again, the existing building is a 3-story plus basement masonry brick building. I'm going to walk you through floor plans and the way the pages are set up. you'll see the existing floor plan on the top part of your page and then the proposed on the bottom. So for this adult recreational dispensary, what we're looking to do is utilize both the first floor and the ground floor or basement floor, we'll call it here. Right now, the basement floor is a vacant storage space, as you can see on the top of the screen. It's just a large open space, a corridor with utility panels and electric meters. And in order to get down here, you walk down a flight of steps from the sidewalk. There is an existing stair that goes up to the first floor, a small toilet room, a janitor's slop sink, and another vacant storage space in the back. And then you have another stair that leads down into the rear section of this lot. And the thing about this lot is that there's an alleyway behind our building, behind our lot, and all the other buildings on this Halsey Street that leads directly out to Linden. And this is where our refuge will be taken out. Our proposed conditions, which you'll see on the bottom floor, on the bottom part of the page, is that the basement section of this dispensary is really going to be for display only. It's going to be for clients to display or to visualize in smell pods and get educated on the product that they'd like to purchase. But no cash or no purchases will be made on this floor. This is simply for display and education. We will also have employee kitchenette with a small area for eating, a meter room in the front so that the utility meters can be read easily by the authorities. And then we have a security office in the back, which will have all their screens set up for the cameras within the space, an IT closet, and a mechanical closet in the back. In the back part of the lot will be our dumpster, and that will be a dumpster for standard trash that will be taken out Linden Ave. We also have an ADA bathroom on the floor, which will typically be used by employees and maybe used for customers as well. On the next sheet, you'll see the first floor, and on the top of the page, you'll see the existing floor plan. And this was a vacant commercial space and still is vacant. It will be gutted down so that we can utilize the full width of the building. And then kind of carved up so that we better lay out the dispensary. So we are not proposing to increase or alter the footprint at all. It's just a commercial interior fit out, so that you see at the bottom of your page are the proposed conditions. So the clientele would either enter off the sidewalk of Halsey Street down into the basement portion of the dispensary, again, to educate themselves and see the product. And if they place their orders will be passed up electronically upstairs to the POS or point of sale display systems that will be run by the staff. When a client or a customer walks through the front entrance up the front stoop, there is a lobby entrance with a locked door that goes upstairs to the 2 floors, which will be future office spaces for the dispensary. But there's a door here that's secured and looked after at the security guard. So a security guard will check in and confirm license and identification before they're entered into the space where they can be purchased or transactions that can be done. Now, the first floor of the dispensary focused on express pickups and transactions of purchasing product and leaving. So there are 2 display cases, but you see that we do have kind of a running queue. You have displays over here against the wall, and then these are your 2 POS systems, your point of sales, that will be manned by staff. Back in the rear, where this used to be a storage space, is now going to become a secure vault and transaction room. This is where the product will be delivered into. It will be counted. It will be separated and packaged. Everything is pre-packaged. And then this is also a transaction for counting money at the end of shifts and for secure money pickups. In this corner here, there's going to be a compactor for cannabis waste so that there will be no cannabis waste that will go into the standard dumpster outside. That's just for general waste, but all cannabis waste, meaning if there's any product that is bad that comes from the manufacturer or anything that has deteriorated, that will be putting cannabis waste and securely taking out the building properly. There's a
So just,
drip.
if I can, I don't mean to interrupt, just to be clear, all cannabis product will be maintained in the vault, is that correct?
That's correct. All cannabis product will be maintained in the vault, and then once a transaction occurs, the person in the transaction room / vault will pass it through the secure drip tray to a cashier, and the cashier will hand it over to the customer.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So that pretty much walks you through the interior layout of the basement and first floor. Again, the only proposed changes to this commercial fit out will be on those 2 floors, and the upper 2 floors will be future office spaces.
Correct, and they're not within the purview at this point of the application. We just want to note it for the record that we will agree there is no, it is never intended to have any residential use on those upper floors, correct?
That is correct.
Great, thank you. If you can discuss now the exterior of the building.
Yes. As I previously mentioned, the exterior of the building is landmark to historics of Newark, and we are not looking to make any changes except for repairing and painting. So I'll go back to the original image. On the front, as you can see, it's pretty dilapidated, but all the architectural elements are still in pretty good standing. And what we're looking to do is sand and paint and repair all those elements so that we can once again breathe life into the exterior facade. One thing to note is that we will be mounting exterior wall sconce fixtures on the building, which will comply with our lighting standards of 3-foot candles at your entry lighting levels. There will also be security cameras, if I haven't mentioned it before, inside and outside of the building that will yield 100% coverage. And we'll get into that with ownership if you had detailed questions, security cameras.
So Mr. Mitchell, just to be clear, you indicated that the lighting will comply with the city ordinances, but specifically as it relates to the cannabis use, is that correct?
That's correct.
So there will be the minimum of the 1-foot candle illumination maintained throughout the property. And then we're also confirming, as you indicated on the record, that 3-foot candles of illumination will be maintained within 10 feet, as you just indicated, correct?
That is correct.
So it will be in full compliance, correct?
That's correct.
And the refuse locations, just to be clear, there is one that's internal that is specific and limited only to cannabis products. And there is also an exterior that you identified in the dumpster at the rear of the property outside, correct?
That is correct.
And since you're on this floor, on the floor plan, there is a bathroom facility that on the property, I think you indicated it's in the basement level that it would be used for staff, but that's also the ADA that it would also be available for any customers that would come in that would need it, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
All right, thank you.
And then the only other thing to note is that we're not showing it now, but the client is in process of working on their logo, and their logo will be compliant with all signage, and that'll be dimensionally and graphically compliant. And I can show an image of what that is looking to be like. And as of now, this is the progress logo that they are working on.
Great, and that we'll mark that as A2 as a separate exhibit. And just noted for the record, it's intention that we will comply with the local, with the requirements with respect to city ordinances for the signage, and understand that that will have to also be presented to the Landmarks Historic Commission for approval, as that was not within the purview of their application. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
And I think that about wraps up my testimony, and I can open up for any questions.
And I'd just like to note, Mr. Mitchell's testimony is limited solely to the plans that he prepared. We do have the witness up next who's going to discuss operations and those other items related to the D3, the operations and the odor management, et cetera, of the facility. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell.
Are there any questions for the architect at this time from the commissioners? Commissioner Hall. Commissioner Hall?
Muted.
Unmuted.
All right, there you go.
Yes, Mr. Mitchell, you talked about the waste pickup, and you said somebody pick it up. Who's the somebody?
Mr. Hall, we actually have the operations individual who's gonna provide that testimony with waste management, because Mr.
Okay.
Mitchell is simply the architect here.
Can he answer the question about there's two ways to come in? When you come in on a lower level, you view the products, and then the product is not it goes, I guess, electronically to upstairs.
The operation manager will speak to that.
Okay, great. I have no questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners have any questions? Mr. Mitchell,
Yes, sir.
can you go back to the basement for me? Is this the basement?
Yes.
Okay, can you just walk me through that back room again, I believe it is?
The back room?
Yeah.
Yes, so this is going to be a security office. So this is where the security monitors will be set up so that the security staff will be able to monitor what's going on with the cameras in the interior and exterior of the building.
So this is where the security will watch the cameras at.
That's correct.
And and outside, what's going on outside in the open area?
We will have, I apologize, if you're speaking, Commissioner Mumford, just to be clear, about security on the outside, the operations can answer that if you want the floor plan, Mr. Mitchell. So we do have someone provided.
Council, I'm working on the floor plan. What's this floor plan in the basement laid out for?
Yes, this is for display. So these will be display cases, essentially cases that you will be able to see different types of product, but you will not be able to physically touch the product. There may be smell pods that are, and this is operations will get into how they plan to display the items, but this is only for display. And if any purchases are going to be made, there's nothing that can be done downstairs to make any transactions with money or cash.
So it's safe to say the basement for logistic reasons is for viewing and the first floor is for purchasing.
That's correct. Viewing and education on the product. And upstairs would be for purchasing.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell.
You're very welcome.
Council, you may call your next.
Mr. Chair?
I'm sorry, Commissioner Hall?
Yeah, and then for clarification, I thought you could actually place an order from downstairs that would go upstairs. Is that?
I'll let the owners speak to the operation.
Okay, I want to understand it, but
yep, absolutely.
Somebody could explain.
I understand your question.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall.
Thank you, Chair.
Council, you may call your next witness.
Thank you. Ramez Maximus.
Hello, everyone.
Please raise your right hand to be sworn in, sir. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you will be providing will be the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Please state your name, spell your last name, and your affiliation for the record.
Ramez Maximus, Maxemous, and I'm the business operation consultant.
Counsel? Thank you. Just for the record, Mr. Maximus is a fact witness, so we will not be swearing in, we won't be qualifying him for anything.
Right. You may move forward.
Thank you. Mr. Maximus, so you were responsible with your title as a business consultant for operations for providing guidance with the state and local regulations and the operations of the proposed retail cannabis facility. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And to your knowledge, Lilac Dispensary was awarded a conditional retail license from the state of New Jersey. Is that correct?
Yes.
And as it relates to this property, they received their approvals from the Newark Landmarks and Historic Preservation, correct?
Yes.
And so the application that the board is entertaining this evening, along with that is a D3 variance. It's a D3 variance relief that we're seeking. And we submitted a security plan, odor management plan, ventilation, etc. And you are working with the applicant with respect to those items. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Can you please provide the board an overview with respect to the operations? I think there were questions that were raised with respect to how someone would enter the facility, view the product, and then exit the facility. So operationally, if we can just go through that.
Sure. So customers would, when they enter the building, first thing they're going to be met with is with our security guard, armed, and their job will be to verify that they're over 21. They will scan the ID to make sure it's a legitimate ID, not a fake ID. Security guard will then have them escorted or allow them to enter the main floor, which there they will be able to see packaging, which is like dummy packaging. If they wanted to see what a gummy looks like or whatever we have on sale, they'll be able to display it there and see it. They'll also be ordering kiosks, which will allow a customer to take their time, browse through if they want, ask questions of the bartender. There will also be cashiers. Once they place an order online on the kiosk, it automatically gets sent to the fulfillment room within just a couple of minutes. The order is put together and prepared for pickup. They will just go to the register and purchase. We are going to obviously accept cash, but we also will be accepting debit card and ACH. That's just to decrease the amount of cash that we have on hand, and obviously for security reasons as well. So it's no longer just cash only at dispensaries. We are going to be taking other methods of payment. And once the customer is done making their purchase, whatever payment method they use, they'll be able to exit again, and they will have to pass another security guard at the exit. So, the whole process is under the eyes of cameras and security at all times. They are there to just make sure everything just moves smoothly, the workflow and everybody's moving in the right direction, and keep an eye out on product and safety.
So, Mr. Maximus, to be clear, you discussed the operations on the first floor. There is the basement level that will have displays. Can you just discuss what's the purpose of the basement with this displays and just discuss that room, the purpose of that room? And I think one of the questions is whether folks who are with a bud tender, is that what you're, whether they would be downstairs servicing anyone who's interested in purchasing.
Yeah, so I think what the downstairs is going to be used more for is education. So just in case we need extra space or just customers need a little bit more attention in their purchase, whether they are worried about conflicting prescription medications with their cannabis. So we just wanted a different area where bartenders will obviously be manning that location, but they will be able to help them with product selection and take their time, give them advice. And there's also going to be ordering kiosks downstairs. So, we'll help them select. And when they do select, we can place the order in the kiosk. It'll get sent to the same fulfillment room. It'll still be prepared the same way. But I think it's just, we wanted to have additional space for people that wanted to just take their time. A lot of people have a lot of questions. It's the first time using it. And we wanted to have that space for education. So, we wanted off the space because I think upstairs, a lot of people are going to come in, know what they want to be in and out. And that's why we have the upstairs. But if we need to spend a little bit more time or people arrive in groups, things like that, we also have another area that we can just kind of, get them out of, without causing a crowd or a backup. We can give them another additional space where they can feel relaxed and ask their questions in private.
And so the purpose of that is twofold, is to provide display in an educational area, but also to avoid any log into, for example, the streets, the stairwell, or just overcrowding on the ground floor. Is that on the first floor? Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. We want to leave that first floor for just kind of like the in and out. An average customer, we're expecting it to be in the facility from entrance to security till exit back out is about 6 to 8 minutes. So, obviously some customers are going to come in and they're going to want that extra time. And we're going to have bartenders down there that are, on top of their knowledge of the plant and interactions with medications and et cetera. And we want them to have that experience and have that extra time if they need it. And we wanted to have that space just kind of separate. So we don't cause a back jam upstairs.
Understood. And you indicated there will be security check both when they enter and when they exit the property. Is that correct?
Correct. They have to be checked in. They will not be able to even be allowed in unless they go through security. We make sure they're 21. And security is at the exit to also make sure that they're leaving with their exit bag sealed because we don't allow anyone to open any products on premise. So the purpose of the exit security guard is to kind of make sure no one comes in through the exit and also to make sure everyone that is leaving has made a purchase and it's still closed and sealed. We don't allow anybody to open products on premise.
Great. And if we can, when we're discussing the operations generally for this facility, how many number of employees are you expecting to have on site?
Probably within every shift, about 7, and that includes the security. We're gonna have at least 2 security guard armed at any given time. And again, we'll adjust as needed. We might have more if needed, but we figure 2 security and at least 5 butt tenders, and fulfillment managers, et cetera, but about 5 employees per shift with some overlap between the 2 shifts.
Okay. And you indicated the butt tenders, and you have other individuals that are not security. Those qualifications to be an employee at the facility, they will be trained and you will have background, and they will get the adequate training specifically to operate and to work at this type of facility. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. They will be personally trained on all aspects of compliance, regulation, rules, local ordinances, and they also have to pass a rigorous background check from the state to even get a card to be allowed to work in the facility. So not only are we going to do our own personal, obviously interview, background check, employment verification, but the state does a very thorough, criminal credit kind of investigation on every individual. That's why it takes so long to get somebody approved to work in the facility, but that's part of the state process. They're very, very rigorous and thorough with that. So while they do allow, people with prior convictions, especially like with cannabis, they'll allow them to work, but the state does its own background check, and so do we. And we'll train them personally to make sure, they're aware of customer service, the rules, the regulations, where to smoke, where you can't smoke, so we can educate people as well on that.
Great. And the hours of operation, we understand the city has an ordinance. It's your anticipation that this facility will operate within those hours. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And the Monday, can you just provide the board with an overview? You're looking Monday through Thursday, perhaps?
Yeah, Monday, Thursday, we're going to start with 10 to 7, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Okay. And on the weekend, it just goes, not really weekend, but Friday through Sunday, it's 10 to 10.
Okay. And the ordinance allows, that's within the operations of the purview of the ordinance, correct? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, great. And you had indicated that the check-in and check-out process they will be assigned a bud tender who will tend to them during their visit. Is that correct?
Yes, we want that personal treatment with every customer, and we want to make sure everyone gets product and safely uses it. So, we're going to spend a lot of time, especially when it's their first visit, to make sure that they get all the information that they need when they make that purchase.
Great. So you testified that the customers will exit through security. There will be no product opened in the site, and there will be no smoking on site, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Correct. And we can, beyond this, the logo that was just shown that's being worked on, there will be absolutely no advertisement on the outside of the facility, or any marketing or advertisement that will appeal to, children or anyone else outside of the building, correct? Beyond what we showed as the logo.
Absolutely. That's a state requirement as well as a city requirement, and we plan to be at 100% compliance at all times. We're going to frost the windows, actually. Sorry, we're going to frost the windows, which is a state requirement also, so you cannot see what's going on inside from outside at all. It's just a regular frost. There's no writing. There's no advertising of any cannabis products. So unless you know what's in there, you will have no idea just walking by.
Great, thank you. And we discussed security guards. There's also a security component that we have to submit a security plan as part of the application as well with the state as with the city. We indicated the use of the armed security guards. This facility will not only have the armed security, but they'll also have cameras on site. Can you discuss the security plan that was presented as part of this application?
Sure. Yep. So we are definitely going to have cameras. The cameras cover 100% of the facility. The only thing that's not covered is the restroom. And security cameras are recording 24 hours. They go back, I believe, 60 days. So we'll have a record of anything that happened for 60 days. They also record off-site. So if anything is damaged or stolen or broken into, we also have record on a cloud-based system. So, security, we're going over and beyond the requirements and what's asked of us, and I think actually, the cameras are required to be 60. We actually have them for 90 days. So we've increased that limit. So we're doing everything to make sure safety of our customers and our employees are number one. So that's priority and all hands on deck when it comes to security. We have the alarm, we have motion sensors, obviously access control. So only certain employees are allowed in certain areas. Customers are not going to be allowed in certain areas. It's just, we have it laid out. So security is always the major component and the priority in everything that we're doing with the design.
Okay. So you can affirmatively state that the system will include your monitoring service, your alarm monitoring service will comply with the city ordinance. You indicated the cloud, so there will be a backup system in the case there's any loss of power or whatnot, correct?
Yes, ma'am. And alerts. So if there is a loss of power in the middle of the night, every responsible person will get a text, a call from the company. Everyone will be made aware that there is an issue, and management and security will be able to arrive on site. We're going to try that they're only always about 10 minutes away, so we can get somebody there if there is an emergency immediately.
If we can just discuss deliveries, you indicated that the hours of operation are 10 to 7 Monday through Thursday and 10 to 10 on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. How frequent are the deliveries anticipated to be at this facility?
We expect deliveries about once a week, at most twice a week. And what we're doing, and we've been in discussion with several of the vendors and wholesalers, is they start delivery as early as we want. So what we're trying to do is do them before even open hours. Obviously, they're not going to be the same time, same day every time for security purposes, but we are trying to schedule them where they all come before 10 o'clock. There will be an employee there. There will be security there. We'll be able to handle the delivery, bring it in, check it, and send them right back out before we even open for business every day. I don't envision more than twice a week at most, but it's probably going to be more like once a week.
Okay. And discussing the deliveries, I also want to just move on to waste management. That's an additional component we had to provide information with the waste management plan. We discussed how the regular garbage will be kept in a bin outside of the property, and Mr. Kirk, where are you? I thought he was here. Mr. Mitchell did discuss that there will be a garbage in the rear of the property, but that the inside will also have the vault, and there will be a special, container there, or that's how any cannabis materials will be disposed of, as they are maintained only in that vault. Can you just talk a little bit about how the product is actually maintained and kept in the vault, both for storage, and then should there be waste that's related to anything you receive?
Okay, so luckily, most of the waste, if it's a damaged product or tampered with, because everything comes to the dispensary sealed. It comes in a sealed jar or a sealed Mylar bag, and we sell it to the customer sealed. So there's never really anything that we open or handle in the store to make waste. But in time, there is often times where the product comes damaged, the seal is broken. Those things get returned directly to the manufacturer or directly to the vendor. So we're not really responsible for having to dispose of it on site. However, there is a policy and procedure if we have to destroy product on site, and that requires actually an investigator from the state to be on site during destruction. And that is maybe like if there's a jar that opened or is completely busted and we have to just destroy it for whatever reason, we would mix it with cat litter and bleach. And then it becomes just, unusable cannabis at that point, and it just gets thrown out with regular trash. But an investigator from the state has to be on site for that. We have to make an appointment with them. So for the most part, it gets just returned right to the vendor. We make another manifest, and when they do the next delivery, they'll pick up whatever we have in quarantine in the vault, because it just goes in the quarantine area. Mm-hmm. So it's not sellable, and bartenders don't accidentally sell it to anyone. But we don't, for the most part, across the state, no one is really destroying any cannabis on site. It's all handled by whoever sent it to us, whether it's a manufacturer or a vendor or anything like that.
Okay. If you can now, we indicated that the materials are held in the vault and that you will have displays, but can you discuss the odor management plan, and please describe the proposed ventilation system that's being anticipated for this facility?
Okay. Again, what's great about this specifically, like a dispensary, is that nothing is really opened in the store. It's all sealed, so the amount of odor that is released in the store from just day-to-day operation is minimal to none. But just to be overly cautious, our procedures still have us installing a ventilation system with filtration for the air, for any odors, and to make sure it's not released into the neighborhood. We're also going to have air purifiers, air scrubbers on the facility. Again, that's a state requirement as well, but we don't envision any odor coming out of the facility. We're going to keep it sealed, which is really the only way to control any odor, even if we were emanating odor. All windows, doors are to be sealed, closed. There's no holes. There's nothing really where the odor can escape, and everything that is inside will be filtered through our air purification system, and it's of the highest class. So I think statistically, it cleans the entire space every 3 minutes. Whatever odor is in there, whatever air is in there is filtered and recycled every 3 minutes. So again, we don't expect any odor at all, but we still have the policies and procedures in place. Just in the event that there is anything, we're taking care of it. We're on top of it. We don't want to be a nuisance to the neighborhood or the community.
And what you're proposing is consistent with industry standards of what the requirements are for this type of a facility. Is that correct?
Yes, actually, I think we're exceeding them for dispensary wise. Like, our ventilation is as if we're producing the cannabis in there, even though everything comes in sealed, it stays sealed until it exits the building with a customer. So we're just going over and beyond with every aspect to make sure safety and compliance and neighborhood and the community that we're operating in have no issue with us being there.
Thank you. And lastly, a service that's going to be provided by this facility as well as is deliveries. So there will be a this business will also provide a delivery service. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And if you can just talk a little bit about, how the deliveries are processed, and just a little bit about how you anticipate that operating that component.
Sure. I think what we're gonna really do is, as customers start entering the business from the very beginning, we're gonna always promote that, hey, why don't you order online for pickup next time you come? And we actually offer delivery, and delivery will be done online, just like the order pickup. You can, when you place an order, you want 2 items of X, you'll be able to check it in as a pickup or as a delivery. And if it is checked as a delivery, you have to upload an ID. It has to be verified by the dispensary before the delivery goes out. We make contact with the customer before the delivery goes out to make sure that they're a real person. State rules mandate that the delivery only go to the address that's on the ID. So again, there's security aspects that the state has thought of. There's others where we're not going to use marked vehicles. It's going to be a regular plain old paper bag. So it does not signify we're delivering cannabis anywhere we go. It just looks like a regular Uber Eats delivery. But we are going to promote the online pickup, and we are going to promote the delivery just to decrease the traffic to the store, just to decrease congestion. And I think it's a great service anyway. Just like most people order food, I think they'll be able to order their medication as well. And so we are going to promote that, and we want to do it obviously with compliance all around, but we want to do it as a service as well. And it is going to check all the boxes. ID has to be presented first. There's the delivery cars are monitored by GPS. There will be cameras inside as well to monitor the whole delivery. So we've kind of thought of everything that could go wrong, and we wanted to make sure we have a policy procedure in place to make sure it doesn't go wrong.
And lastly, you indicated, we understand where this property is located. So there's no on-site parking, but as an operator, you guys have secured some off-street parking spaces as well as an agreement with the parking lot across the street to validate parking for customers. Can you just provide a little bit of information on that?
Sure. Yeah. Obviously parking is limited everywhere in Newark. So what we did is proactively signed up with a parking lot and got an agreement and a proposal to, in the beginning, I think we're taking about 6 parking spots. However, like as need grows and hopefully we're blessed with more business, we'll be able to get more parking spots from that parking lot. And we're going to validate it for the customers. So it costs them nothing to park in downtown Newark. They can come to the dispensary, visit the convenience store, hit a restaurant on Halsey Street. So we'll validate their ticket and, they'll get to park for free.
Thank you. I have no additional questions for Mr. Gomez Maximus with respect to the operations or the items noted, particularly as it relates to the D3 items where, security measures, ventilation, etc.
Thank you, Counselor. Are there any questions from the board? I have a couple questions. Should be real easy to ask. So you are a prepackaged selling dispensary where it's already prepackaged. There's no weight in packaging. Your supplies come already prepackaged.
Yes, sir. And that's across the whole state. It's all the same. No one breaks anything down. No one has to weigh anything. There's no scales in the store. The product comes however it is, whether it's a single pre-roll or eighth, it's already packaged, sealed, airtight jars. And that's the way we get it. And if the seal is broken, we can't even sell it. So we return it right back to the vendors. So it's always sealed.
Will you be doing topicals also?
Yes, absolutely. There's topical ointments and balms, and they all come as well sealed. There's also edibles. There's tinctures now, and I think they're even working on a suppository as well for children.
Last question. You said it's a two-part question. When they enter with security. When they exit with security. I didn't ask the architect at the time. Is there two separate entrances, or is it a wait, let one in, let someone out?
Well, no, I think we will let people in until there's an occupancy limit, I'm sure. So, at that point, security will hold everyone else at that point from entering. But it's whatever the occupancy limit is when it's decided by the fire marshal, I guess.
So it's
I don't know
one
if that's the
door.
question.
So you're gonna have one door to enter and one door to exit. There's not separate doors split.
No, yeah, it's one door in, one door out.
Okay. And the last question is, who's watching the cameras? Is it an armed security guard or a staff member?
It's probably going to be a staff member and security manager, because obviously we're going to have a security manager that's in charge of security all in general, their scheduling, et cetera. So there will be a security manager on site, whether it's a staff member, like physically with our company, or another person of the security company, but somebody will physically be manning that room at all times.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Hall.
Yeah, I don't think my question was answered. I know council actually asked a lot of questions. So the kiosk to purchase from downstairs that goes upstairs, does the product come back downstairs, or do they need to go out, leave the facility, and go through the other door upstairs in order to make the purchase?
Well, there's a staircase inside, so those will be able to walk right up from inside. So inside will be able to go up and down freely. The order will go up. It'll get fulfilled upstairs. They could take their time downstairs if they like, but whenever they're ready to go upstairs and make the payment and exit that way.
Thank you for that. There's a lot of light on that. So the other question, I don't think I have an answer. The disposal of whatever unused product for whatever reason in this room or container, whatever. Who's picking up that waste?
So there's currently 7 vendors in the state that sell the product. So it's whoever sold us that product. So if it's a specific brand and it goes back to, let's say, for example, the company Terracen, we would notify Terracen that we have a return item. And with our next order, which will come once a week, we will send that package back manifested. So the state wants to keep track of every single thing. So even when it's returned as damaged, we have to mark it in the system. We have to let the state know it's being returned. And then they notify the state when they do receive it in-house. So
that vendor has to pick it up and take control of. Other than that, it's in the waste room.
Right, and what they have burning facilities at most of these manufacturing sites where they burn weed or whatever way they destroy it. Most of them are just incinerators.
Okay, thank you. Now, totally enlightened. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall. I see no other raised hand. You may call your next witness.
Thank you. Mr. John McDonough.
I'm sorry. Oh, there you are. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to provide will be the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name, spell your last name, and your affiliation for the record.
My name is John McDonough, MC capital DONOUGH, and I am the project planner.
Great. Thank you. And Mr. McDonough, your license is current and good standing. Is that correct?
That is correct.
We will accept Mr. McDonough as a planner.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. McDonough, you've reviewed the plans, the application documentation, and heard the testimony that was presented this evening as it relates to the application. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, great. Thank you. And so you understand the application that's before the board this evening is related to a D3 and have reviewed the board report issued from Mr. Gerard Hazel, who is the board planner. Is that correct?
Correct.
And in your review of the application documents and the relief that's requested, can you please provide us with your planning analysis and the justification for the D3 specifically addressing the one item and the one condition that wasn't satisfied as it relates to this application.
Sure. The case that applies when we're dealing with a conditional use variance as opposed to a wholly prohibited use is known as the Coventry test. It's a more relaxed test than this board may ordinarily see. When we're dealing with D3 use relief, the use itself is not at focus. So you've heard a lot of operational testimony here. You've heard about the layout and whatnot. The focus is not on the use per se, as it ordinarily would be when the board is looking at a use variance, but rather the conditions and their intended purpose, the conditions that are not being met here. And we'll come back to what those conditions are. With respect to the positive criteria, the case law has clarified that whenever we're dealing with a conditional use application, the positive criteria are presumptively met. This use serves the general welfare, just like any other permitted use in the zone serves the general welfare. And again, we're in the Living Downtown Redevelopment Plan, James Street Historic Subdistrict. The city and its enabling ordinances highlight the socioeconomic benefits of this land use. The project as a whole will benefit the public with revitalization of an underutilized site. The project aligns with core planning goals of efficient land use and a variety of land uses in appropriate locations. We do have some proximity relief. I'll get to that in the negative criteria. The project will improve the aesthetic of the site and give it a fresh, clean look. All of this ties back to the land use law, especially purposes A, purpose G, purpose I, and purpose M. Now, with respect to the negative criteria, as always, Mr. Hazel has outlined in his report the relief that the applicant is seeking, and really he lists two conditional use criteria that are not met here, and they are both related to proximity to other types of land uses. The first is the site is within 500 feet of a licensed childcare center, or in this case, the word in the ordinance actually says daycare. We know that in the law, a daycare is distinguishable from a child care center. So we question whether that standard actually applies or not. Again, we are within 500 feet of a licensed child care facility, but not a daycare facility. And that's over at 106 Halsey Street, Bright Horizons. The important thing that I will mention there is that Bright Horizons, while it does front on Halsey Street, actually has a door on Halsey Street that has a sign on it that directs students to go to the back door. So by the pure walk, it's more than 500 feet away. I'll say as the crow flies, it is less than 500 feet away. But the key point there, to the extent that the intent of that conditional use standard is to maintain separation between children and this land use, that is met here again by virtue of the fact that the children go into and out of that building in the parking lot in the back and not on Halsey Street. Also, as you heard through Kirk's testimony, this is going to be a very discrete land use. It's adaptive reuse of a building that's already there, and it's very tasteful, and I'll say quiet in its public realm appearance. Mr. Hazel also references in his report another facility at 106 Halsey Street, at 8789 Halsey Street, which is known as Proud to Be Me. That is actually not a licensed childcare facility. That's an after-school program for K through 8, I believe, but that is not a childcare facility. So that, in my view, does not apply in terms of what the ordinance regulates. And then finally, the site is within 200 feet of a university. Rutgers is right next door, but we're not looking at academic buildings. We are looking at the immediately adjacent building is the Rutgers Honors Living Learning Facility. Again, it's not an academic building per se, so this is not going to cause distraction or interference with learning. And as you've heard, not only is this a discrete land use, but it is a contained land use, a concealed land use that doesn't spill out into the public realm as well. So we think there's been good care here, good solid testimony with respect to odor control and odor mitigation, waste management, security, and all of the things that would normally tie into this land use. I know early on there was concern about residential above, and as you heard through Kirk's testimony, that's going to be reserved for future office space, perhaps related to the subject business or other business, but not residential use per se. And just to close out with, to underscore or put an exclamation point on what I just spoke about, here's our subject site. It's this white building in poor condition. The Rutgers facility is immediately to the right. Again, no direct interaction between the two. And then finally, if you walk down to about 400 feet or so to Bright Horizons, this is what you see. Please use Bright Horizons rear entrance, so you have to walk around the building to the parking lot and come in through the rear parking lot. So again, for those reasons, we think the conditional use criteria are not being violated, or any of the intent of those conditional use criteria are being violated here in terms of maintaining separation 200 feet from a university and 500 feet from a childcare facility. With that, I would offer, based on all of the testimony, the lesser test here for D3 conditional use relief is met.
And just for the, I wanted to know for the record, we are gonna mark your two photographs as exhibit A3. And I will send those to the board secretary.
I will forward.
Thank you. I apologize. I have no additional questions for Mr. McDonough.
Are there any questions from the board? Are there any questions from the professionals?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Hall?
Yeah, we before we move off this professional, I'm wondering if Mr. Hazel wanted to weigh in on the child care at nearby. If you had any thoughts, back door, front door, side door, make, if that's appropriate, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Hazel, our planner, raise your right hand. Let us swear you in.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the,
testimony,
that you will state the truth and nothing but the truth? Because it's not a testimony.
I do.
Okay. State your name for the record.
Gerard Hazel, board planner. I was still mulling it over, you know, what, since John mentioned it. In terms of the, whether it's a, you know, just, you know, dealing with the issues, if you will, as he mentioned them, whether it is a licensed daycare or it's a licensed childcare, the information we get is provided by the city and its GIS database of facilities, and they have it classified as a childcare center. Until this point, I didn't really see a difference in them, but I mean, I guess, you know, I guess you guys will have to ponder that. I mean, to me, you know, regardless of what we call it, we know what the activity going on there is. Children are being taken care of within a certain age, that type of thing. In terms of the location of the facility down the street and the difference of the door, the facility is still there. I've never seen, even when we talk about, you know, projects within 1,200 square feet of Penn Station or the train or the bus stop or the train stop or whatever, we don't do it from the front door of Penn Station to the facility. I mean, it's you know, so I don't think that one, in my opinion, holds a lot of water. But in terms of the proximity to the university itself, the standard in the ordinance does not basically indicate whether it must be a programmatic location or it doesn't differentiate on what aspect of activity the building or the site that is in close proximity is. It doesn't say that it must not be a dormitory or it must not be a this, it must be a that. It just says university. And in the straight reading and understanding of the ordinance, I mean, I don't see a differentiation. I mean, university property is university property. So I don't know if that helps or makes things more complicated, but that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Mr. Hazel, and thank you, Chair.
Thank you. There's a Jack Lares or Lares?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. Are you an objector? Are you a supporter? Are you?
I'm a supporter of it. I did just have one question. I don't know if this would be for the operations manager. Just I've seen a lot with dispensaries that the amount of customers could grow, and I was wondering how the people would be waiting outside of the facility. I do live right next door, so that's why I'm wondering, because if they'll be directed in front to line up in front of my building, or not. I don't mind the random person coming to sit on my stoop, which is fine. I just don't want it to be a hangout spot.
You have a valid concern that we will need the operator to weigh in on, sir. I agree with you.
Mr. Maximus? You're muted.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Your name for the record, please.
Ramez Maximus, operation consultant. So yeah, to answer that question, community is one of our top goals. We're not even gonna tolerate anyone encroaching or coming onto anyone else's property. We have security specifically for that reason. However, I think there's a misconception or a stigma that all dispensaries, when they open, they have huge lines. That was once upon a time where everywhere you go, the lines were an hour long. But since now we have over 120 dispensaries in the state, it's not a thing anymore. Maybe on special occasions like 420 or one of the cannabis holidays, there is an uptick. And what we're going to do on those specific days is have more people staffed inside the store. We're going to obviously be promoting the online orders and pickups. So even if they are showing up to the store, they're in there and out in less than 5 minutes. We are going to be promoting heavily delivery on those holidays. And the way we do that is we offer a discount for someone that does an online order for pickup or a delivery. And that way you'll see quickly that most people gravitate and go that route versus coming and standing in line. We don't envision a line where it's going down the block. That was, again, once upon a time in New Jersey when it was only like 4 or 5 dispensaries. But now with 120 and continuously every week, there's another 1 or 2 opening. I don't think that that's going to be a problem at all, but we are going to be fully prepared. We are not going to allow anyone to smoke outside, linger outside, loiter outside, and especially with our neighbors next door. We're going to go around to the neighbors and we're going to give them business cards for the manager and security manager. And if ever anything like that happens, they should pick up a phone call and someone will be in front of their property within 5 minutes taking care of the situation. We're not there to threaten anyone, but we are going to be there to educate them. You can't smoke here. This is somebody's house. You have to go to your own house to smoke. So we are very conscious of our neighborhood and our community, and we will do everything possible to make sure that they're not negatively impacted at all.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Once again, I am a supporter of it. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you both. Counselor?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Hall.
it's the consultant, he sounds good and very knowledgeable and all these wonderful things, but I think we need some kind of commitment that the applicant will monitor outside as well as the great security inside. But there needs to be a commitment for outside, because the community person that came on was right. It could be a backup. So we need a commitment, just like there's commitments on the inside security, that outside they will monitor and make sure there's a proper flow and no backup and no smoking or all that outside around the homes in that area.
I can, on behalf of the applicant, say that should this board be inclined to grant the application, we will agree to the condition that we will monitor the exterior for the reasons that you just noted on the record, Chairman Hall.
Thank you, Councilor. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Counselor, do we need to do a D restriction on those, as a conditional approval of those 2 levels upstairs? Because this is the first application that has come before us for a dispensary that has multiple levels. Everything has been flats. You are the first one to bring an application before us that has multiple levels, and we don't want anything where next thing you know, it sounds good. Yeah, everyone's gonna exit. Next thing you know, things happen. Management change. People get sick. Next thing you know, they upstairs having a 420 party.
I understand. And what we can agree to is a condition on the resolution. I will object to a deed restriction just because I don't think this board has that legal authority. But I will say that we would be in agreement to a condition that those floors that this applicant, as part of this use, will never have those upper floors occupied for residential use. They will be solely limited to office space related to this operation.
Madam Secretary, do you have that condition? Do she need to repeat that?
I have it.
All right. Are there any further questions from the board for the planner or any other of the professionals that have testified tonight?
I have a question.
Commissioner Torres.
Yeah, this is from Mr. McDonald. I just wanted to ask you about the distance of the child care center there at 87 Halsey Street to 79 Halsey Street. What is the distance?
That one is actually, Commissioner, that one at 87 is actually not a childcare facility. It's not under the guise of the ordinance. It's an after-school program, but not a child, it's not a licensed, the language of the regulation says licensed childcare. But before we're done, I can certainly get you the exact distance there. I know it showed up within our 500-foot range, but as we dug further on our research, that it's not licensed, so it doesn't apply, but I'll get you the exact number.
Okay, because they have children that are coming in from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade, from 12 years old. And figured that could be a child care. Okay, thank you.
Mr. McDonough, you know we're getting close to discussion here.
Yep, I'm getting that calculation for you right now, Mr. Chair.
We're gonna take a 2-minute break and let Mr. McDonough get that calculation. Then we're gonna come back and go into discussion.
Thank you very much.
Recording stopped.
Time is now 8:24. I'm calling everyone back. Commissioners. Is everyone here? Madam Secretary?
Commissioner Cole, okay, yes, we're here.
We ready to go back on the record?
Recording in progress.
Thank you. We are now back on the record. The planner will ask to get the distance from the after-school program to the proposed site. Mr. McDonough, do you have those numbers at this time?
I do. 157 feet door to door.
Thank you, Ms. Commissioner Torres.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any further questions for the professionals?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Hall?
One question for Mr. Madonna. That's not the after-school program. That's not the child care place we're talking about. Correct.
Commissioner Hall. Yes, that's known as, Proud to Be Me. It's an after-school program.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm sorry.
Are there any further questions before we go into discussion? I see no raised hands. We will, because there were no supporters and no objectors, we will. Council, would you like to sum up?
Please, I'll be brief. We'd like to thank everyone for their time. We respectfully submit that the application submitted inclusive of all of the drawings and exhibits that were presented today in light of the statutory requirements demonstrate the relief that's being sought. As noted by the planner, the benefits, on balance, the benefit derived from the project do not impact negatively the area. The standard specifically for the D3 test focuses on the intent of the condition. And the intent here is to keep children and the community safe from this use, right? And clearly with the door in the back, the intent of the separation, the security, not only internally but externally, is to ensure that the public safety is at all times the number one priority of this operator. And so with that, we'd like to submit, we believe that the standard for the D3 relief has been satisfied. And we thank you again.
Thank you, Councilor. The board will now go into discussion to discuss this application. Commissioner Contreras.
I think it was a very well prepared application. I appreciate the knowledge that the consultant had of operations. It's well prepared. This is something that's coming more commonplace in our communities, and I think it's good to see that security is at the forefront, right? We know, I said it over and over at other meetings, you can't legislate decency. So you really can't stop somebody from walking 10 feet away and attempting to light up, even though that's already legislated, right? That's illegal. But I think they're making an earnest effort. They seem like serious people. And I think they're going to do a good job at running this facility in a good neighborly way. So I'd be in favor of it.
Thank you, Commissioner Contreras. Commissioner Hall. Commissioner Hall? Is that an old hand or a new hand?
Very new hand. Very new hand.
Commissioner Hall.
I will first begin. Anytime you say children, you get my attention. So that got my attention. That sits in my mind, as I'm sure it sits in everybody's mind. What was submitted here is a good application. Why is it good? It's bringing an economic benefit to our city and our state. It's something that's happening all over our state right now. I appreciate the consultant's deep knowledge of what is being set up and his knowledge of security and the protection of the property and his customers, which relates to the protection of the community. When we put on the record to extend that to outside of the facility to the outside, which you should put in your future presentations, we're concerned about the inside and the outside. But that commitment to do that, is a positive, and my colleague, David said it, that you can't legislate decency, right? But if you're going to be outside as well as inside, policing that area, protecting the residents in the community there, then I think that handles that. I also think that, you got some kind of daycare child. I don't know what it is, right? But parents are going to pick them up and they're going to get out. The reality of the new state we live in is something that's happening. But I don't think a parent is going to sit there and with their child and allow that to happen. So you've overcome that. Right now you have what's ugly eyesore on Halsey Street. And just by putting some paint and fixing up, you got something that's really good. I'll go back to security. If you heard what was presented, these people are not playing around, nor could they play around. And if danger is going to happen, if somebody's going to report it, and you keep reporting it, they're not going to be open anymore. So for those reasons, this was a good application, and I'm going to be in favor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall. Are there any other comments from the board? Seeing none, it was a very good application, very well presented. The planner, who usually does a good job, explained to us some things that could have been controversy for this board, but he explained it to us in a manner that makes me a little more comfortable. Most dispensaries, small ones, you really don't know that they're there unless someone tells people what's actually there. The larger ones, you kind of could see what they are, but the small ones like this one, this is a small location that, based upon the state regs, would be hard to really know that it's there. And if you look at the design of the logo, it doesn't say it doesn't give you a leaf to make you assume that it is a dispensary. But I think the operator has made all the conditions and adjustments and followed the state rules. I will be in favor of the application. So, hearing that, can I get a motion to approve or deny this application at this time?
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve ZBA 24-12, 79 Halsey Street. I don't believe we had any conditions of approval.
We do have conditions.
We do.
We have conditions. Yes. Okay, with all conditions.
We have a motion from Commissioner Comisarias. Can I get a second?
Second.
Was that Ms. Hardesty? Commissioner
Jones.
Hardesty?
Jones.
Commissioner Jones. We have a motion from Commissioner Comisarias and a second from Commissioner Jones. Call the roll, Madam Secretary.
Member Hall,
Yes.
Member Hardesty,
Yes.
Member Comesañas,
Yes.
Member Jones,
Yes.
Member Rivero,
Yes.
Member Cobian,
Yes.
Chair Mumford.
Yes. Congratulations, your application has been approved.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary, do we have another application?
No, we do not.
Counselor for the board, memorialization of resolutions?
None tonight. We don't have any. And there's no need for executive session either, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, do we have minutes for memorialization?
Yes, March 21st and March 28th.
Can I get a motion to memorialize the minutes from March 21st, 2024?
Move it.
Second, Commissioner Hall and Commissioner Rivera. Call the roll, Madam Secretary, for
Member
March
Hall.
21st.
Member Hall,
Yes.
Member Hardesty,
Yes.
Member Comesañas,
Yes.
Member Jones,
Yes.
Member Rivera,
Yes.
Member Cobian,
Yes.
Chair Mumford.
Yes. Can I get a motion to memorialize the March 28th, 2024 minutes?
Motion.
Commissioner Hall, second by Commissioner Comisarias. Call the roll.
Member Hall,
Yes.
Member Hardesty,
Yes.
Member Comesañas,
Yes.
Member Jones,
Yes.
Member Rivera,
Yes.
Member Cobian,
Yes.
Chair Mumford.
Yes. Council have acknowledged that we have no reason to go into executive session tonight. Therefore, this concludes our agenda for tonight's Board of Adjustment meeting. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Move it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good night, everyone.
Before you guys disconnect, Mr. Chair, of course, I
Oh,
give
that's
us a
true.
reminder, that, and your Secretary Sylvia, you can correct me, the date for the joint meeting is the 7th, the instructional meeting, correct?
Yes, Tuesday.
May 7th, I believe.
May 7th, so, hope to see you all there.
Sorry, yes, the joint board meeting will be May 7th, 2024. You will receive communication from the secretary. Good night, everyone. Good night.
Bye.